UW-Madison Disability Resources Training, Module 3, McBurney Center Programs and Services. UW-Madison achieves its legal obligation to provide equal access to students with disabilities through the McBurney Disability Resource Center. The McBurney Center's mission is to help create an accessible university community for students with disabilities through a collaborative effort involving students, faculty, and the McBurney staff. The center is responsible for determining disability status and making recommendations for accommodations that provide students with an equal opportunity to participate in all educational activities. To be eligible for accommodations and services through the McBurney Center, students must have a documented disability legally defined as a physical or mental impairment substantially limiting one or more major life activities, such as walking, speaking, seeing, hearing, learning, or caring for oneself. The McBurney Center serves students with learning, psychological, physical, health, and sensory disabilities, and the majority of these students have hidden conditions, for example, attention deficit disorder, depression, or diabetes. Students with learning disorders comprise about half the population of students served, while the fastest growing population is students with psychological conditions such as anxiety or depression. The number of students with chronic health conditions like Crohn's disease or type 1 diabetes continues to grow, as does, on a smaller scale, the number of students on the autism spectrum and student veterans. Accommodation may be physical, electronic, instructional, or attitudinal. A reasonable accommodation is a modification or adjustment to a course, program, service, activity, or facility that enables a qualified student with a disability an opportunity to attain the same level of performance or to enjoy benefits and privileges as are available to a similarly qualified student without a disability. Accommodations are determined on a case-by-case basis and may not fundamentally alter the program, service, or activity or cause an undue financial or administrative burden. At UW-Madison, the Verified Individualized Services and Accommodations Plan, or VISA, is a written record of the accommodations recommended by the McBurney staff for the student whose name appears on the document. The VISA facilitates communication between a student and his or her faculty. Students are expected to meet privately with faculty to discuss classroom accommodations in a timely manner, usually within the first 2 to 3 weeks of each new semester. The first step for faculty in the accommodation process is to consider the degree to which the accommodation changes the nature of the learning or testing process. When there is no meaningful impact to the standards of the course or exam, faculty must make suitable arrangements for accommodations. Disability or accommodation-related information must not be shared with anyone who is not directly assisting with the accommodation process. Faculty are encouraged to contact the McBurney Center or their department's Access and Accommodation Resource Coordinator if they have questions about the provision or appropriateness of the recommended accommodations. The VISA includes several important pieces of information for faculty. First, it shows the date the original VISA was created, when it was revised, if appropriate, and when it expires. Second, the VISA includes the name and contact information of the McBurney Accommodation Specialist who works with the student. Third, Level 1 and 2 services and accommodations are shown. Finally, the student is asked to read a disclosure statement and then sign the VISA to show he or she understands that McBurney staff may share relevant disability information with appropriate university personnel participating in the accommodation process on a need-to-know basis. Most often, the accommodations recommended for students with disabilities involve the provision of additional time. A student with a learning disability often needs additional time to read or write, especially under timed testing conditions, while a student with a visual impairment may need more time to read text using Braille. Students with chronic health or psychological disorders may need flexibility with a due date or a test date if the symptoms of their disorder cause interference. Prior to the semester getting underway, the student will present faculty with a student accommodation letter verifying the episodic nature of their disability, along with suggestions for supporting the student during times of heightened symptoms. Extended time on tests and testing in a small group allows students to be evaluated on the basis of their knowledge of course content without undue interference from their disability. The standard recommendation for extended time on tests is 50% additional time. This benefits students, for example, who process visual information or retrieve information from memory significantly more slowly than peers due to, for example, a reading disorder or traumatic brain injury. Testing in a separate, less distracting environment is helpful for students who have difficulty concentrating, such as those with an attention deficit hyperactivity disorder or severe anxiety. Faculty arrange test accommodations by reserving a room in the department and identifying a proctor as needed. When a separate room is available but a proctor is not, faculty can make a request from the Testing and Evaluation Services proctor pool using an online request form. Another commonly recommended accommodation is for classroom note-takers. Students who are approved for this accommodation ask faculty to assist them in identifying a classmate the McBurney Center will pay to provide a copy of his or her notes to the McBurney student. Students who have difficulty writing quickly, remembering, or following a classroom lecture because of a hearing loss or a mood or thought disorder may be approved for this accommodation. The faculty role is primarily to assist with note-taker recruitment. The document conversion accommodation provides access to written materials. Students with a reading disorder or visual impairment may need recorded audio, electronic text, or Braille documents. Because it can take several weeks to locate or produce accessible materials, faculty are asked to select their course reading materials as far in advance of the start of class as possible, minimally 6 weeks. Accommodations for students who are deaf or hard of hearing include sign language interpreting, real-time captioning, and caption media. Sign language interpreters translate everything said and heard in the classroom into sign language, while captioners convert everything said and heard in the classroom verbatim into text on a computer screen. Interpreters and captioners will accompany students who are deaf and hard of hearing into the classroom and will ask faculty to provide materials in order to prepare for the classes in which they will be interpreting and captioning. They may need access to Learn at UW in order to review online course materials. Any media used in the classroom will need to be captioned in order to be accessible to students with hearing loss. Caption media refers to any type of media that has a text equivalent for all audio information presented. Every academic department or unit on campus has a designated Access and Accommodation Resource Coordinator, or ARC. The ARC serves as a resource to faculty, staff, and students to ensure an accessible learning environment for students with disabilities. ARCs may assist in finding resources for faculty to provide academic accommodations, like quiet rooms and proctors for test taking. They may consult with faculty on unusual accommodation requests or on complex student issues, such as extended absences and multiple assignment extension requests. While traditional classroom accommodation is the primary manner in which equal access to learning is achieved, the McBurney Center takes a much more holistic approach to serving students through our adaptive technology, psychology, and transition services. The McBurney Adaptive Technology Lab has expanded our ability to demonstrate a variety of adaptive tools and train students on their use. We offer psychology services support to students in the areas of executive functioning, managing academic anxiety, and living with a disability. Our transition programming assists students with disabilities from admission to the University of Wisconsin through graduation and entry into employment.